All right. Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Beehive State, which is also known as Utah. And today's date is Tuesday, August 2nd, 2015. Oh, yeah, I know it's nice and hot out here, but that's just part of Utah, the desert and all that good stuff. Yeah, I'm just wondering how many of you actually were watching some of the convention for the Democratic National Convention. It made me really startled when both Hillary and Chelsea Clinton were speaking about what they're gonna do, and of course Chelsea's talking about how great her mom is. And if you, it's on ABC News, ABC of course, and you watch Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton, he looked like a zombie. I don't know what was going on. People say he had health issues and all that, but he just stood there and just like dozing off and just putting his head down, like having his head down, his eyes closed, and he looked like totally zombified. Because I know there's cases of his Bill Clinton. He was a mind control um, advocate, I would say, no, mind control victim, okay, or property, whatever you want to call it, a puppet. It was very mind-boggling when you see it firsthand. And of course, you got Hillary talking about how great she's going to be compared to Donald Trump and all this good stuff. And like I said, I'm not going to be talking about praising these candidates. However, all the rhetoric she was addressing is actually reflecting herself on the fruits of her labor. If you're familiar with Hillary Clinton, even as First Lady, it's very corrupt, wicked, evil, tyrannical, etc. She's just an example. So that's why I was just like, when I hear her speak, I think I'd rather go to the toilet and take a dump. I find that more intriguing to listen to that stenchy voice of hers. Wow. So I just have to do that little rant on it. But like I said, don't, whatever you do, people in the United States, when the general election comes, don't try to rely on a candidate you support as a messiah. That's considered when you all this hype and hoopla on the mainstream media trying to push for these candidates. Don't get caught in this mass distraction. Do your homework. I always recommend, if you want to watch the video speeches and so forth, go to C-SPAN. They're unfiltered. That's why I learned about how ludicrous and I would say blasphemous is the word for these politicians when I watch C-SPAN, because I know one thing for sure, even James Corbett had to agree, that the globalist hates that station. And this is why I always tell folks, go there. I even recommend it to my mom and everybody else. Watch that. Screw the stupid, pathetic, dumbed down stations, because they're just blowing smoke up your own rectums. So I'm going to do that little rant. That's enough of that. And one thing for sure, one thing here, I got some, got this on the Twitter. I got this fight, fight for the future. That's the name of the website, fightforthefuture.com.org. Excuse me. They have a site called freechelsea.com. I am going to post this on here. It's a petition drive for urging Chelsea Manning is being charged of her own suicide attempt, faces indefinite solitary confinement. And there's a petition. There's a petition for it. It says, tell Secretary of Army publishing Chelsea Manning for attempting to take her own life after systematic treatment and is inhumane. Drop these new charges and immediately give Chelsea access to adequate health care. So I signed it. So far, they have, I would say, about 25,878 supporters. I recommend everyone. I am going to post this and everything else I'm going to be addressing on my Spreaker page. I urge everyone to go there. freechelsea.com, which is FREECHELSEA.com, which is all together, okay? And as it reads here, after years of inhumane treatment and have been held in conditions that the UN considers to be torture, Chelsea Manning, the Guardian columnist and whistleblower who has been in prison for 4 years, serving a 35-year sentence for exposing some of the U.S. government's worst abuses, attempted to take her own life July 5th, 2016. Now, Army officials have informed her that she is facing serious new charges directly related to her suicide attempt. These new charges include 1. Resisting the forced cell move team. Chelsea was unconscious when this team arrived, which makes his charges particularly absurd. 2. Prohibited property for items she used to attempt to take her own life. 3. Conduct which threatens for somehow putting the prison at risk while attempting to take her own life quietly in her own cell. If convicted of these bizarre administrative offenses, they are effectively charging her for attempting to end her life. She is facing indefinite solitary confinement for the rest of her prison term, another 30 years. Maximum security classification in the same facility and nearly a decade before she can ever be classified as a minimum security prisoner. It is unnecessary, cruel to threaten Chelsea with additional punishment while in this very vulnerable state. The government is trying to silence her important voice for good. Chelsea has been systematically mistreated by the U.S. government since she was first taken into custody in 2010, including long stretches of extremely solitary confinement, even before she has been convicted. Chelsea is a transgender woman being forced to serve out her sentence in an all-male prison, which is itself dehumanizing and exhausting emotionally. She is currently being denied medical treatment for her gender dysphoria, which experts have stated is the only course of treatment, though, which she would no longer be suicidal. This is not the first time the government has harassed Chelsea with outrageous charges while in prison. Last year, they threatened her with solitary confinement for minor infractions, including possessions of a LGBTQ reading materials and an expired tube of toothpaste. We gathered more than 100,000 petition signatures in response, and the outcry we generated kept her at a solitary. Now we need to do it again. Please sign a petition and spread the word. Chelsea is depending on us. And there's an ACLU press release and a Fight for the Future press release. So definitely, folks, make this really happen. I do find this essential. And I have posted it on on that particular one, my Facebook and Twitter accounts. Just type in Local Luck 3. Facebook is Local Luck Roman number 3, and of course Local Luck 3, number 3, all together on Twitter. If not, hit my Spreaker page. You can hit these links as well. But I am going to put this on Spreaker also, so don't even worry about it, all right? But you can keep those everything in clear, and Miss Manning, Chelsea Manning, should be transferred or in isolation, okay? Because people tell me my views on transgenderism and all, but I'm looking at this person as an individual, and it's very disturbing. So, but if the government does it, it's okay. Yeah, but if you do it, lock them up, throw the book at them. That's how these vultures think, these ungrateful parasites. So definitely make this happen and spread the word. And let's try to reach 50,000 plus. All right, and that's all I'm gonna say on this area. And actually, I'm going to be talking about the main topic is actually the Battle of Athens, Tennessee, which happened on August 1st and 2nd of 1946, which is the 70th anniversary. And they have a segment here, not a segment, but a sign where it happened. And it says here it's 2A, Battle of Athens, Tennessee, August 1st and 2nd, 1946. The Battle of Athens, Tennessee was an armed revolt that gained national attention, attempting to end the control of entrenched political machine. World War II veterans used force to ensure that on the day of local elections in 1946, every vote was counted as cast. After local authorities locked themselves and the ballot boxes in the jail, veterans suspicious of foul play gathered weapons and ammunition and exchanged fire from this hill upon the jail, which once stood across the street. The besieged authorities surrendered, and at a meeting in the courthouse, the interim government was set up, followed by the election of the veterans slate. So we're going to be have a few things on here talking about it, and This is from the Resurrect Republic. It says here, Battle of Athens, Tennessee. Vets who took back their town from a crooked sheriff when America had more real men. It's by T.R. LaCora Stewart. He has a show called Resurrected Republic, and definitely check it out. He's good, very educational, and so forth. Hey, and I always tell people check him out. All right, tell him look the third sent you. And it says here, established political corruption and election rigging have become so commonplace. The stunning collision and fraud perpetrated by the Democratic National Committee this year, revealed in several document leaks, seem virtually incoincidental to vast swaths of the voting public. To some, however, coordinate the plot to install Hillary Clinton as a Democratic nominee constituted an unforgettable breach of faith, if not outright criminality, particularly since none of these involved will be held accountable. Despite this outrage, a pair feelings of helplessness also settled in. After all, the disillusion, laminate, what could really be done to throw out such a blatant power grab? To those who believe in such maleficence is beyond resolve, perhaps revisit to the Battle of Athens, Tennessee on its 70th anniversary will offer some perspective. In 1946, war-weary GIs began to return from World War II battlefronts in Europe and Japan, ready to resume their life in their sleepy Tennessee town. What they found instead infuriated them to the core. A power-hungry Democrat and his associates had since usurped local government and law enforcement, and had imposed a maniacal chokehold of the McMinn County town through extortive fines, access laws, and arrest of anyone who opposed them. While soldiers were away fighting power-hungry foreign enemies in 1936, Paul Cantrell, a Democrat from a wealthy and prominent family that used that influence to win the position of sheriff, though many Athens citizens strongly suspected Cantrell's hadn't been elected through entirely legal means, there appeared to be no way to challenge the results. As the years passed, Cantrell and his deputies took advantage of the Tennessee law, which gave the unscrupulous men a fee for each person arrested, jailed, and released. According to some accounts, the lawmen even pulled over buses that happened to pass through town, similarly arrested everyone on board for drunkenness, whether or not they actually were, in order to profit handily from their misfortune. But such arrests and fines required paperwork, which meant traceable money and to some degree hindered the men's ability to rake in cash. It's happening around town everywhere you go. Writing tickets to create revenue. Yeah. But I know in Florida, Flip-Flopper Scott did sign that into law about collecting, writing tickets for revenue is illegal. Okay, so you got to exercise that, my friends. It was less troublesome to collect kickbacks for allowing roadhouses to operate openly, American Heritage explained. Cooperative owners would point out influential patrons. They were not bothered, but the rest were subjects to shakedown. Prostitution, liquor, and gambling grew so prevalent that it became common knowledge in Tennessee that Athens was wide open. Because Cantrell and his cronies faced only limited opposition, they thwarted subsequent elections by transporting ballot boxes from every precinct to the McMinn County Jail to be counted behind closed doors. Neutral election observers became the enemy and were frequently forcibly ejected from polling sites if not arrested. With nearly 10% of the town's population fighting overseas, the beleaguered citizens didn't feel there was much they could do to fight the nefarious political machine. Cantrell eventually moved on to become a state senator, leaving Pat Mansfield to become his successor sheriff, exactly as they had planned. But at the time soldiers were arriving home, Cantrell intended to resume his position as McMinn County Sheriff. By 1946, most GIs had returned home to find the liberties and freedoms they assumed they fought for quashed by a succession of zealous sheriffs and their deputies, who made a racket of roughing up and arresting the former soldiers, but their profiteering scheme wasn't exactly well received. Rather than accepting this iniquity, The GIs decided to remove the despised kleptocrats from power by running for office on a nonpartisan platform. In response, Cantrell publicly accused the former soldiers of plotting to stuff ballot boxes in their favor, to which the GIs offered a $1,000 reward for verifiable proof that no one ever collected. Fully aware of their opponent's own ballot stuffing, the military men employed car-mounted loudspeakers to roll through Athens, repeated one of their popular campaign slogans, "Your vote will be counted as cast." On Election Day, August 1st, 1946, voters thronged to the polls in record numbers. Mansfield had bolstered his staff of deputies by hiring law enforcement from other cities and even other states. Hey, remember the FTAA rally in Miami and all these, conventions that's happening, the GOP and DNC, they get all these law enforcers out of their community, out of their jurisdiction to bring them in. How astute is that? Same crap, different day, or correct? Now, some 300 strong, the lawmen hawkishly guarded voting precincts, but rather than looking out for fraud, the men roughed up veterans, serving as poll watchers, and anyone else they considered troublemakers. Legally appointed GI Representative Walter Ellis became the first person arrested by Mansfield's goons. After he protested irregularities observed in the courthouse precinct, several others soon followed, all arrested without just cause. But one of the worst incidents occurred when an elderly black farmer, Tom Gillespie, attempted to cast his vote. One of Cantrell's badge thugs sneered at the old man, "Nigger, you can't vote here." That's what it says. Okay, so, and proceeded to punch him with brass knuckles. When Gillespie dropped his ballot and moved for the floor, the goon shot him in the back. That shows you how pathetic those cowards are. Another bend over Bob with a badge. Hearing the gunshot, the crowd swarmed into the streets, and Mansfield responded by shutting down the precinct and positioning armed guards to prevent access. All held to a police state. Gillespie shooting and the sheriff's actions enraged the veterans, and one of them shouted, "Let's go get our guns." After the former soldiers retrieved pistols, shotguns, and various other weapons, throng of citizens joined them in surrounding the county jail. At least 25 deputies had ran for cover. The GIs began firing in an attempt to draw the errant lawmen out, but it wasn't until around 4 a.m. they finally surrendered. Many called the corrupt to be hanged, but ultimately they were taken to the edge of town, tied to trees, stripped naked, and told them not to come back. Yep. Hopefully all you corrupt ones in that position better be really paying attention, because that's called blowback. They eagerly complied. But even this showdown hadn't stopped Cantrell, as he retained control of the precincts and had pulled ahead in the election, and thus ordered polling sites to close early. One fed-up veteran, Bill White, who had fought in the Pacific Theater, grew more irate as the day wore and decided to rally his compatriots to action. "You call yourselves GIs," he bellowed. "You go over there and fight for 3 or 4 years. You come back and you let a bunch of draft dodgers who stayed here where it was safe, and you're making it safe for them, push you around. If you people don't stop this, and now is the time and place. You people wouldn't make a pimple on a GI's ass. Get guns." While others proceeded to raid the National and State Guard armories and returned heavily armed to the jail, where Cantrell and a few cronies he had left remained barricaded inside. They demanded Cantrell exit with the ballot boxes, but were met by silence. After an ultimately ineffective barrage of gunfire on the jail, the men procured a healthy supply of dynamite, which worked like a charm. Cantrell and his men promptly surrendered. Astonishingly, despite all the gunfire, explosives, and brutal force, there were no casualties in the Battle of Athens, Tennessee. Even Gillespie survived the gunshot to his back. Cantrell, unsurprisingly, lost by a landslide, and the victorious GIs immediately began returning the ex-sheriff's extorted fees to the grateful citizens, eventually returning order to the long-suffering town. And I'm just gonna check this out here on the free thought site, because they have this addressed as well. And I'll add that to my memo. And let's see here. And it's going to take a while, but it's very interesting, when you look at all this. So I always continue on here. Oh yeah, there you go. I'll add that in there as well. Let's do this. Boop. Yeah, I should have done that originally, folks, so forgive me. And of course, the free thought come from Claire Burnish. Okay, so that's the person who wrote this. So I'm gonna actually, yeah, I'm gonna leave a little both on there. Why not? And you look at all this here, and it says here, okay, these events were extreme, and though this momentous victory of citizens over corrupt crony politicians proved something can indeed be done to fight establishment maleficence, and an armed revolt certainly isn't realistic or justifiable option now, but other options, particularly when instituted on a large scale, could prove just as fruitful. One of the most effective ways to vote doesn't involve elections or polls at all. Withdrawing your money from corporate system, which funds and backs corrupt politicians, can be a decisive method to show your intolerance of their policies. Hit politicians where it hurts them most, their wallets, by growing your own organic food, participating in barter and trade, or by either refusing to vote in national elections for opting instead for a third-party candidate. Be creative to validate the system that directly permits such corruption, and worse, to continue. When law becomes so twisted it allows criminals to operate with impunity, that law is little more than hollow ordnance. Working within the system to change it from the inside isn't fruitful. Think Bernie Sanders. Perhaps it's time to work outside it. So really, you got to look at the bigger picture. It can be done, my friends. All right. So I'm gonna actually leave both on here. So out of fairness. So originally it was by Claire Burnish. One of the lessons of that Battle of Athens, Tennessee, and this is from the JPFO, and that's the first time I've read about it, about the Battle of Athens, Tennessee. It was on their website. That's when the late Aaron Zellman was around. And of course, it has more details in here and all that. And oh yeah, it's just very, very interesting. And it says, here's the lessons. I will read that because those who took up arms in Athens, Tennessee wanted honest elections, a cornerstone of our constitutional order. They had repeatedly tried to get federal or state election monitors and had used armed forces so as to minimize harm to the lawbreakers. Showing little malice to defeat lawbreakers, they restored lawful government. The Battle of Athens, Tennessee clearly shows how Americans can and should lawfully use armed force, and also shows why the rule of law requires unrestricted access to firearms, and how civilians with military type firearms can beat the forces of government gone bad. Dictators believe that public order is more important than the rule of law. However, Americans reject this idea. Brutal political repression is lethal to many. An individual criminal can harm a handful of people. Governments alone can brutalize thousands or millions. Law-abiding Minnesota County residents won the battle of Tennessee because they were not hamstrung by gun control. They showed us when citizens can and should use armed force to support the rule of law. And there's plenty of other information on here too. You can check it out yourself. They did their own research. I think this is essential. Could always tell this, my friends, the past is today's greatest teacher. All right. And this is why I get so annoyed when I hear these bobbleheads want tougher firearm laws. You know why? Because they want to control you like pieces of garbage or numbers. They don't like freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers, people that exercise resistance towards them. That's why I always say my religious views is demoniac resistance. I defy all forms of tyranny. And these clowns that speak like that don't care about you. They're just going to use you to get their way. Plain and simple. That's why when I hear these bobbleheads speak, including Hillary Clinton and her sidekicks, and even some members of the GOP like Insane McCain, okay, another CFR Uncle Tom I call him, or another bend over Bob to the one world order. He's a hypocrite as well. Now, it has nothing to do with him being a POW in Vietnam. There's some rumors that it was a farce, but I'm not going to have to go there. It's just his track record as a senator. He's awful, stupid, lousy, just like Hillary Clinton, dumbed down Debbie Wasserman shows. I can go both ends. This is why this is your natural born right. And we all have natural born rights, not just in the United States, but the world. Something to really contemplate really deep. And a lot of things have happened. And so, on this time. But they do add Arthur in my full version of American Story, which was based on Athens, Tennessee. It looks like they filmed it in Texas, I believe. So I'm going to add that to the notes, and of course, Battle of Athens, Tennessee, Restoring Law and Order, like a short version, and it had a lot of hits on there. But something you have to really look at, my friends. That's what the Second Amendment's all about, and the Ninth Amendment goes hand in hand. Is use it when it's necessary. When it comes to fighting tyranny, like I said before, government in Latin means control of the mind. Prove me wrong if you dare. Send your comments. You know what to do. So I'm gonna add that. All these footnotes in here. So like I said, my brothers and sisters, I like this. So I'm gonna hit this next one here. It's from the Daily Caller. It says here the ATF illegally hoarding American gun owners' personal information. This is by Eric Lieberman. It says here a government report discovered the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives illegally stockpile gun owners' personal information. The U.S. Government Accountability Office go to Federal Oversight Agency conducted an audit of ATF and found it does not remove certain unidentifiable information despite the law's explicitly mandating to do so. GAO conducted reviews for 4 data systems and concluded at least 2 of ATF systems violated officials' protocol. One of the data collecting systems, called the multiple sales MS, requires that multiple firearms purchased at once must be reported to the ATF by the Federal Firearms Licensee, or FFL. ATF policy requires that the Bureau internally removes particular data from multiple gun sales reports after 2 years if the firearm has not been traced to criminal activity. GAO found that ATF does not adhere to its own policy. In fact, until May of 2016, MS contained over 10,000 names that were not consistently deleted within the required 2 years. Another system called Access 2000, or A2K, establishes servers to be used by National Tracing Center personnel. The NTC can electronically search FFL's records for certain information needed to track history of a firearm. Oh, excuse me there. While the GAO's investigation revealed that A2K for currently operating FFLs comply with former policy, A2K for out of business FFLs does not comply with the restrictions because ATF maintains these data on a single server. They were direct to get rid of this consolidated information and did so in March 2016. Furthermore, GAO found that ATF does not, but potentially should have an outline policy that specifies how out-of-business FFLs should submit documentation of compliance or shared pertinent information. Accumulating and centralizing such data can become harder to maintain as time goes on. GAO recommends that ATF eliminate or at minimum obfuscate the unnecessary data to comply with federal law and to ensure that unnecessary information isn't vulnerable to breaches of internal fractions. GAO said they conducted this study not only so ATF can better adhere to its own policies, as the title of the report says, but also because the Bureau has a role in protecting the privacy rights of law-abiding gun owners. According to the report, ATF has agreed to GAO's recommendation. Well, let's see if they'll implement it. Well, I know a lot of you folks may have heard about me, what I say about the whole Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. You know what I say? Get rid of these clowns. I'm not saying everyone there are bad folks, but the history, how it started was for the Prohibition, when the 18th Amendment got enacted on liquor sales. That's when they came out. When the Prohibition of alcohol got repealed, these people like, oh my goodness, I gotta lose my job. So they just added the National Firearms Act and all that. They keep these crybabies happy, but they're incompetent of getting the job. All right. And they think they can do what they want. They think they're above everybody. I say piss on them. I don't like it when I go to gun shows, okay, around certain areas of the country. They follow me like some bloodhound. That's what they don't have to do because they don't have a damn life. I'm sorry. This entity is completely unacceptable, unconstitutional, absolutely treasonous. So if whoever gets in, okay, doesn't matter. Shut these bastards down. Let them get another damn job somewhere else. If they can't do that, too bad. They all waltzing in like certain towns. I happen to with colleagues, some folks in Air's Armor in California. They raided the damn broke in their damn doors and try to take records, but they have no records because they're an accessory shop and they got harassed. And the sheriff and Sheriff Gore, oh well, that's federal jurisdiction. That's not our business. Yeah, you know what? You need to resign, chump. You and your Uncle Toms with those badges in that county need to step down too. Pathetic. Yeah, I did that. I did a episode on that. You could look at my archives and listen to it for yourselves. This is just really, ludicrous. But one thing I gotta say, the tide is turning, my friends. Things are happening. Don't put your head in the sand like an ostrich. If you're gonna be dumb, stagnant, and happy, you get what you deserve. But many people are seeing the bigger picture because this is how these tyrants do. They do everything stealth, step by step. We can counter that. If the ATF is in your neighborhood harassing shops and so forth, you call your sheriffs out. You call out your sheriffs. If they don't do anything, you hold them accountable. You throw their asses out of office, even if it's a recall, or do what they did in do what they did in Athens, Tennessee. They need us more. We need them. If you when you learn these things, when you practice what's right, you laugh at these clowns. This is why. This is how I am. I'm not saying this out of malice or hatred, but principle. Don't be afraid of these parasites because they are unacceptable, condemning. This is why the ATF has to go. No ends, ifs, or buts, and I digress. That's enough for that. Next one here came out yesterday. And it says here, U.S. strikes. It's from the Peace and Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity. This one's here entitled U.S. Airstrikes Hit Libya and Bolster UN-Created Government. This is by Daniel McAdams. Good, he's good too. It says here, the Pentagon has announced today that the U.S. has begun conducting military airstrikes against Libya, with stated intent of defeating ISIS in that country. Okay. According to the Pentagon spokesman, the Libyan government of the National Accord requested that the U.S. begin airstrikes against what they claim is an ISIS stronghold on the Libyan town of Satay, the birthplace of the murdered Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. Pentagon spokesman Peter Cook has indicated that this is the beginning of a more sustained U.S. air campaign against Libya, and that each U.S. strike is approved by the U.S. Africa Command, or AFRICOM. Yeah, one world order, right? Some observations. One, no ISIS before 2011, U.S. liberation. It goes without saying that before the U.S. liberation of Libya in 2011, there were no ISIS forces in Satay or anywhere else in Libya. ISIS in Libya is a problem created by the U.S. intervention in Libya in 2011. Two, Libyan government created by UN. The Pentagon cites the government of National Accord as a legitimate Libyan government and its willingness to carry out airstrikes in favor of that government signified U.S. policy favors consolidation of power in the hands of this one. Several factions competing for power in Libya. It should be noted that the government of National Accord is governing body that was not selected by the Libyan people, but rather created by the United Nations and sent Libya onto a ship from Tunisia. At this time, this government was imposed on the Libyan people by the UN. That body's envoy for Libya, Martin Kobler, told the Libyan people they should accept this new governing body even though they had not elected it, he said. I call on the Libyan people to extend to the Presidency Council and the Government of National Accord their full support and cooperation. The international community stands firmly behind them and is ready to provide the required support and assistance. And to all those people, oh, well, Bush did it, we'll crucify him, but Obama did it, that's okay, because he's our man. Bunch of cowards. All right, says here, the U.S.-led attack on Libya was supposed to give Libyan people back their sovereign vote by deposing a leader was not sufficiently democratic by U.S. standards. The U.S. is bombing Libya to consolidate the power of a non-elected government that the U.S. installed because the previous government was not elected. 3. U.S. claims 2001 force authorization as authority. At 28.4-minute mark of today's briefing on the airstrike, one journalist finally asked the Pentagon spokesman under what legal authority these strikes were being conducted. The Pentagon spokesman replied that they were authorized by the 2001 authorization for the use of military force. This administration claim is an incredible stretch beyond the breaking point. Libya was not involved in any way with the 9/11 attacks on the U.S., and ISIS did not even exist at the time of the 9/11 attacks. None of the journalists followed the administration's claim of authority to attack Libya based on legislation targeting those who attacked the U.S. on 9/11. The spokesman is a complete stooge. Good grief, man. What's his name? Cook? Yeah, Crook, right? Yeah. Another chump, I would say. That clown, wherever he is, yep. It says here, $4 million spent on strikes to hit a tank, according to Pentagon spokesman Peter Cook. I call him Crook. The U.S. airstrike resulted in the bombing of a tank and a few trucks. The cost of round of airstrikes on Iraq or Syria is approximately $8.5 million. Hooray! 5. No immediate interest in ISIS appearance in Libya. Through the entire 37-minute Pentagon briefing, no one in the press corps asked why ISIS is in Libya, where it had not been before the 2011 U.S. attack. No one challenged the administrative narrative. To those prostitutes, you're not more than Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You weak and pathetic minions. Okay? That's all I have to say on that with those ingrateful stooges. Because the truth of the matter is, my friend, I am tired of seeing the United States being an empire, and everyone has their put their hand on their heart, go, thank you for having me in a police state. Hallelujah, amen. This is this is why like I said, like even in past reports, Gaddafi, like him or not, stop playing ball. That's why the airstrikes happened. Why he got lynched. All right, and people still think President Obama's a great man, and these other yahoos want to vote for Hillary Clinton. Oh, she should be the first woman president. She's a warmongering witch. That's how I look. This is how I observe this. It's more of the New World Order 101. So everyone out there that don't have a damn clue, you better start looking up because when they come to when it blows back in your face, how come this happened to me? With all you care about little material things, this is what's been really happening. Good people from both sides are getting hurt because of it. We gotta stop being an empire, return as a republic, denounce the United States as a federal corporation, get out of the UN and all these disgusting world organizations, including NATO. And I will end at that. All right. Let's see what's going on in Venezuela. It says here by the express.co.uk. It says here, socialist experiment, Venezuela in ruins as soldiers delete videos of 12-hour food credits. By Joe Barnes, a BBC journalist who attempted to film the crisis was stopped and forced by soldiers to delete footage of a protest outside a supermarket as desperate Venezuelans waited for food. Baying crowds shouted, we want to buy stuff," as they grouped outside the store in the country's capital Caracas. BBC journalist Vladimir Hernandez reports that many people approached him to say that they had queued for 12 hours without being able to buy what they wanted. People face 12-hour queues for food as the Venezuelan food crisis continues. Maduro inherited Chavez's socialist experiment, but not the high oil prices. Vladimir Hernandez, in a short clip, the crew are warned by a demonstrator that they have been spotted by members of the Venezuelan army. They are soon surrounded by soldiers as the crowd screams, "Let them film." Soldiers can then be heard saying, "Delete the video right now in front of me," as the journalists are moved away from the demonstrations. During this report, BBC Newsnight, the journalist said Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro faces an economic crisis unlike any Venezuela has seen before. Of course, he died of cancer. The socialist experiment, his predecessor Hugo Chavez began 17 years ago, is failing, triggering massive food shortages and inflation. Maduro inherited Chavez's socialist experiment, but not the high oil prices that finance his public spending. There are some food on sale, but most people can't afford to buy it. Venezuela has the highest inflation in the world and is hitting the poor the hardest. The government has made some staples like flour and rice available at pre-inflation prices, but there is not enough to go around. Related videos, President Nicolas Maduro took over 3 years ago after long-serving leader Hugo Chavez. His popularity has plunged as many Venezuelans blame their hunger on his economic mismanagement. His popularity has plunged. Okay, repeat there. However, the government blames on it an economic war being waged by speculators and foreign powers seeking a regime change in the country. President Maduro's official term ends in 2019, but Petition movement is pushing for a referendum to remove him from power early. Jamaica is set to enter an agreement with a Latin American country to provide food and medicine in exchange for paying off that oil debts. It's interesting here because it's always a little cloak and dagger on this. Is Maduro can be a patsy? Yeah, I could say that, because it's a lot more than just one man and so forth. But and a lot of people are critical about how the socialist engineer works too. You're gonna hear all sides. But the whole thing is this: the people in Venezuela and the rest of the world got to try to learn to be more self-efficient. Okay, supply and get your own food, grow your gardens, and have your little markets. I do support an open free market, but the people in that nation's got to each nation got to decide for themselves. And and that's the case. Freedom of the press is legal. Freedom of speech and press is legal in Venezuela. So that's how you can look it up yourselves. So they can't really they can't refute it. But you have to hope for the best for these people. There's good people out there in that country, and it's a real shame what's going on because it can happen it can happen anywhere. It's why everyone, it doesn't matter where you live, you gotta be ready all the time because especially got families. If you especially got a family, you gotta think of them first. And people you can rely on, work as a team, network with one another. Because this is just an example how when you got too much government dependency can really hurt you. That's why I'm always been like a maverick by nature. I always question everything and learn a lot more. That's why anyone can do this. I'm still learning to this day. I'm 47 years old, for goodness sakes, okay? But hope for the best for these people. Pray for them, bless them, and all that because they really need it. And hope and just hope and pray that they can be more spiritually prosperous. Because there's a big domino effect happening, and the one world order don't really care because they're just part of that this part of that example, and everyone else should butt out. Let the people in Venezuela take care of themselves, and if you could do honorable trade and so forth, that's fine, but do not intervene with their governmental affairs. All right, finally, like many of you do not know that President Obama, everyone's so-called Lord and Savior, teleprompting buffoon that he is. That's not my president, and I'm from the United States of America. Okay, it says here one is from truthout.org. Progressive site and all that, but they got some good input too. So you gotta be always observe responsibly. It says here how one GMO nearly took down the planet. A story of Calibisa planticola is a cautionary tale of the impact of genetically modified organisms. On Friday, President Obama signed Senate Bill 764 into law. You're my hero. Dealing a major blow to the movement to require GMO labeling, the new law calls to deny Americans the right to know. Act by food safety groups has at least three key parts in that undermine Vermont's popular GMO labeling bill and makes it nearly impossible for you and me to know what's in our foods. Laws claim to set federal labeling standards by requiring food producers to include either a QR barcode that can be scanned with a phone or a 800 number that consumers can call to find out whether a product contains genetically modified ingredients. But according to the Institute for Responsible Technology, this bill doesn't require most processed foods to have a label. The bill defines genetic engineering so narrowly that most of the GMOs on the market don't qualify, and the bill gives the USDA 2 more years to come up with an additional criteria, also known as more loopholes. This is disappointing for American consumers who honestly just want to know what their food contains. But the issue surrounding GMOs isn't just about what these companies are putting into our food and stocking our stores with. What's potentially more devastating for the planet is that genetically modified organisms developed by companies like Monsanto and DuPont can escape into our ecosystem and potentially wreak havoc before they are even tested or approved as safe. That's not wild-eyed conspiracy theory or speculation. It's a matter of fact. On Friday, the same day that Obama signed the Dark Act, the U.S. Department of Agriculture confirmed that a farmer found 22 experimental unapproved wheat plants in one of his fields that had been genetically modified by Monsanto. The reactions to the finding have been swift, despite being ignored by the mainstream media. That's right. Those Uncle Toms in the mainstream media don't want you to know. They want you to look at the whole thing, what's going on with Hillary and Donald Trump. Come on, see, this is all distractions, my friends. You gotta get out of that spell. Federal and state investigators announced they are looking into the matter of how the unimproved mutant wheat found its way to field that has been planted since 2015. South Korea, the fifth largest market for U.S. wheat, announced in response that it will be stepping up quarantine measures for milling and feed wheat shipments from the U.S. in response. Monsanto told the Associated Press that these wheat plants are a type that was evaluated in limited field trials in the Pacific Northwest from 1998 to 2001, but the variety was never approved. Nonetheless, this is the third time in as many years that varieties of Monsanto's GMO Roundup Ready wheat was cropped up in the area. In two of those cases, federal officials have no idea the wheat got into their field or where else it might have spread to. All we all we do know is that the USDA is testing the farmer's other field to see if the wheat is growing anywhere else, and that the FDA has stated that there is no evidence that the wheat has entered the market. Beyond that, we really don't know how this Roundup Ready wheat will impact local ecosystems, whether it will wipe out non-GMO wheat or whether it could be bioaccumulated in the food chain and eventually have an impact on top predators like humans. That should set off some alarm bells because we dodged a similar bullet before with Calisbia planicola, a soil bacteria that aggressively grows on plant roots. In the early 1990s, a European genetic engineering company was preparing to field test its genetically modified version of Classybilia planicola, which it had tested in the lab and presumed to be safe. But if it weren't for the work of a team of independent scientists led by Dr. Elaine Ingham, that company could have literally killed every terrestrial plant on the planet. The company's genetic engineers were trying to solve a simple problem faced by farmers all over the world: how to deal with crop residues like leftover corn and wheat stalks after harvest without burning fields and creating thick and dangerous smoke. They figured that they could take a gene that leads to alcohol production from yeast and insert it into the bacteria Calisbia planicola. In the end, the scientists hoped that this simple modification could do three things at once: decompose the plant material without burning it, produce oil that could be used for gasoline or cooking, and create a sludge byproduct that would rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, magnesium, and calcium to be used as fertilizer. As Dr. Elaine Ingham described it, it would be a win-win-win situation. But then Dr. Ingham and her team tested the impact that the sludge would have an ecological balance at an agricultural soil. When they applied it as fertilizer, they found that wheat grown in sludge died after about a week. And as Dr. Ingham pointed out in the presentation in 1998, by modifying the Clasbia planicola, they fundamentally change what does in the soil. The plant bacterium makes a slime layer that helps to stick to the plant's roots. Engineered bacterium makes it 17 parts per million alcohol. What this level of alcohol is toxic to roots, and 1 part per million engineered bacterium makes the plants drunk and kills them. Clasbia planicola is found in the root system of every terrestrial plant on Earth. So if the modified bacterium were released into the wild, it would threaten every single terrestrial plant on the planet. The story of Clasbia planicola is a cautionary tale. Part of why there is such staunch opposition to GMO products is that we really don't know what the long-lasting impacts on our planet's ecological balance could be. Meanwhile, companies that are developing GMO care more about making money by getting their products to market and lobbying Congress to help them hide their products. In plain sight, than they do about the safety of consumers or the planet. We need to overturn the Dark Act and implement clear nationwide GMO labeling standards that follow Vermont's, which was struck down by the Dark Act. And beyond that, we need to implement the precautionary principle here in the United States so that companies like Monsanto and DuPont have to prove that their products are safe before they expose consumers, our natural ecosystem, to their potentially highly toxic products. Exactly. And this is why I say this again, we won't have to buy their damn foods. And like everyone talk about, yes we can, yes we can. You've been scammed. Ha ha ha. That's going to your Lord and Savior. To all you folks out there that still think Barack Obama's a great president, you just been duped. That's their thing. Let's make it everything around them. Until the senators that have voted on it, stick it. Your pieces of garbage. And the House as well. I'm about to find out one of those who voted on this Dark Act. I should take time to look at it myself. If anyone can find it for me, that'd be great. Send it. I'll give you all the information, and you can even put on my comments on Spreaker. All right. So another dark day, I would say. But people, whatever you do, don't give up the fight. Keep on going. Hit these rallies like March Against Monsanto, DuPont, and all that. And don't buy their damn products. All right? That is all, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download this episode and everything else on my archives and share it throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, compliments, criticisms, or you want to send me some information that I can find interesting, whatever you do, please send it with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Tumblr, Freedoms Network, and Scene.life. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3, that's the number 3 is all together, at gmail.com. All right, before I sign off, decided to play a song, band called Killing the Messenger. If I'm correct, they're a South Florida band. Got some good stuff. I've seen them a couple times, and they're pretty good. But I believe this is I'm gonna look it up. I don't know if they're from South Florida. I think it's called Killing the Messenger. It's gotta see here. Forgive me. I'm just maybe assume poorly. It's just me, my friends. I just do stuff like that. But yeah, I'll check it out right now. Just do a little glimpse. Taking the time to do my little copy and all that good stuff Hopefully, I think it's Kill the Messenger, not Killing the Messenger. I'll just find out right now if they're from South Florida. And they got some music out there, yeah. Oh, actually, they're from San Diego, California. Okay, yeah. So the link's on the YouTube page. So Killing the Messenger, that's the name of the band. And the song they have, it is entitled Rising Tide. Pretty good stuff. Check it out. Make your own judgment. And support them. All right, my friends? Okay. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.